Hey Tom, welcome
Hey
to the
ho,
stage.
hey ho.
Uh, you're here as well, and let me just see what this looks like when I hit
Oh,
that.
there we
All
go.
three of us there, and Veronica will come on board at some point. You're backstage, I know, V, but you're not coming on. You're muted at the moment. And we are live, folks, and so you're straight into the ballroom, Tom, and welcome. And we've also got Bruce, and we've got Veronica in the background, and we've got an interesting show, an interesting focus. Well, I hope it will be, and that is the aim. And tonight is focus around fairies or the realm of fairies and magical tales and a whole variety of different strange wonders and possibilities. I'm going to start this off by sharing my screen with you folks, and I'd like to share a little video to kick off this evening and see how well this goes. And you should be able to see my screen right now.
I see you.
Well, we obviously don't need to see that twice. And so, welcome to our theme this evening. And this theme is close to my heart. It takes me all the way back to the land of Wales, and I was literally there yesterday, and I've been visiting there for the last, 6, 7 weeks, performing shows every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And between Veronica and myself, we've just completed 108 shows. And on top of that, I did a birthday party for friends of ours in Cardiff. And it was a really beautiful event. And again, it was a very fairy tale location. And I'm going to be going into that in a very short while. But Wales is a land of myths, is a land of legends, is a land of storytelling, magic, wizards, dragons, witches, and fairies. And this is our evening focus. And we yeah, so I'm just looking at my cast right there, and we've got guests here, we've got magicians, we've got Lady V, and I'm going to share just a little bit of a story, and it's largely about fairies. I'll do this in parts, and I wanted to share with you this one book that's come off my mouth, my shelf, and it's this. This is first edition, and it's the got to get this right. Cottington's Pressed Fairy book, and it literally is Cottington's Pressed Fairies book, and it goes back to the date. Um, Let me just check in. I'm still. Am I full screen right here, or am I? I'm still good, right? Yeah. So I'm checking in with Barry and Tom there. Yeah, and this is a delightful book, but it's a little bit morbid as well. And so this is a book, and this book is inspired by another mythical story, another, if you like, a story that inspired people to believe in fairies, and this is quite a rich history behind this. And the one so I'm going to I pronounce this hopefully correct. The Cottingley Fairies Affair, And this is a very famous story that goes back to the 20th century with these two girls, two young girls, and their names were, let me capture, it was Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths. And they created this story that there was fairies at the bottom of their garden, and they actually took photos of these. And bear in mind, this is like right back in when digital wasn't quite there yet, and they created, or should I say AI even, they created these images of fairies at the bottom of their garden. And in fact, it convinced some people that this was real deal. And and lo and behold, one of the individuals who bought into this in quite a big way, and it was what is his name? Was Arthur Conan Doyle. And what's interesting about Arthur Conan Doyle is that he was the person who originally inspired the Sherlock Holmes stories. He was also a physician. He was an educated man, and in his later years, he got disillusioned with Sherlock Holmes and all the rest of it, and he started going into the world of spirituality and literally and mediumship, as well as contacting and having fascination with fairies. Fairies true? Are they not true? There's more to this tale, all right? And more to this tale is that he got involved with these girls, believed them fully, and so eventually it got exposed that it wasn't real. But he always claimed that one of the pictures was authentic. Now, what makes this book interesting? It is inspired by that very book. So we're going into this book now. This is this was a book that was collaborated by the Monty Python Terry Jones, if you know Terry Jones, great comedian, and the fantasy artist Brian Froud. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name right, because I just recently met him. I'll come to that later, but I recently met him at the Fairy Festival, and he's a famous art illustrator, and he illustrated many of the pictures that are depicted in this book, and they're just brilliant. Let me get a real good one. Here we are. Lots of good ones in there, but and it's a beautiful book. It's a stunning book, but he captures fairies in what would have been pre-Victorian times. He captured fairies in the sense of what they truly were like, or believed to be like. So not so beautiful and ornate as we get them in fairy movies in the modern day, but these are really spectacular fairies and fairy tales. But on with this book. So this book is lightly presented and there's overtones, and the author of this book, it's an important point, is Lady Angelica Cottington. And she claimed, or there was a story created, that she became the heir of the original photos. That she became the Lady Connington, who was inspired by those photos, if that loosely holds together. But bear in mind, this is pressed fairy book, so it's quite morbid in that sense. So the idea is that these photos are pressed fairies, somewhat like the flowers that are pressed in a book. And I'm going to read one of the captions in this book right here, and it dates reads August the 10th, 1896. I knew those fairies behind the potting shed, so I went down and sat very still with my book wide open. And fairies, being curious, Insiwinski thing came round to have a look at me and landed in my book when I snapped it shut tight. Ow! And the end result, you can't make this up. You have a press fairy. I think that's delightful. But it's really morbid, and of course, it's controversial because it really does present itself, even though it's fictional, it's presented in this really practical, historical almost mandate that flows from this other story, which was exposed as make believe. But then again, are fairies true? Are fairies real? Do we really experience encounters with fairies? And I have thoughts on this myself. And and before I start asking our guests here their thoughts on it, I have one or two videos I'm going to share, but I have one video because I also spent a day with a wonderful man yesterday, and we're going to go and visit him. And it's a 5-minute video that I'm going to share with you. And in this amazing place that I was in yesterday. So, how do I do that? Oh, I'm always sharing screens. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to share this screen and here we go. Sorry, let me just get this. All right. Can everybody see it? Bruce, can you see it? No. Okay, that's not good.
No, it's not being shared yet.
All right, that's
Here you
better.
go.
All right, sorry. Here we go. We'll try that again. If anything ever happens like that, folks, do let me know. Just speak right up. We've lost Tom by the looks of things.
Oh. Not getting any sound, Mario.
Really? No sound?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. All right. Bam. Okay. Tom, you're not on screen, or you are there, so we're not getting any sound there. Okay, so I just abandoned that attempt. And oh, that's a shame. Did you hear the sound of the other video that I shared earlier? You didn't. Alrighty. And this is when I want my admin team to help me out here. All right. What is the matter with that? I have no idea. Okay. All right. That's just the way it is, folks. That's just the way it is. And hey, Jeff, how you doing, brother? I got brother. I got Jeff in the in the background there. We'll soldier on. Basically, I met with Barry, who literally lives in a beautiful wood. He's 83 years old, and he's got this amazing lifestyle where he lives off grid, and he lives in a very dense wood in a very small wooden house, and that he mans. And he's a forager, and he spends, and more to the point, he's a bushcraftsman, and he spends a lot of his time literally working in the woods and working with nature and creating all sorts of different things. And he's very proactive, and he's very disciplined and very on it. He's built his own shower units and all the rest of it. But like I say, and he's got this immense background where he lives in the woods, but he also has had some experiences in the woods, which makes him question: has he seen magical realms? Has he met with magical creatures? And uh, as such. So that's the background of Barry. I wonder if I should try it one more time on a different screen share. I'm going to try it one more time, and then we'll just roll without any other videos that I had planned for this evening, if not. Right, so we're going to add that to the stage. And ideally, and yep. Let me know, folks, if you can hear it.
No. Sorry, Mario, can't hear it.
Nope.
No. Oh, hello, Bruce.
How are you, Tom? Nice to see you.
And you? I'm busy getting ready for starting my teacher training tomorrow.
Congratulations! I remember you bringing that up. That's great.
Yeah. So I've got
I think you and I are now running the show. I don't know where Mario went.
Yeah, I'm having to design some chairs in the style of pop art.
Hey, look, Mario's back.
Hi, Mario.
Well, I kicked myself out, and I did that myself. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I got it. No sound. Right. I'm going to have to work on those video presentations. Yes, congratulations, Tom. That is good news to hear. Oh, man, I've got like this whole kind of thing that I had lined up for us in regards to fairies, but I think this fairy mischief taking place, really. And good.
Blame the fairies.
All right. Sorry?
Mario. Blame the fairies or the gremlins.
Well, this is a big part of it, I guess. You know, but on with the show. One of the things I was going to share with you is the story of Fling Avan Vac, and this is the story of the lake, or the Lady of the Lake, and this is a magical story, and it lends itself to Wales, and it comes from the very ancient tales of Mabinogion, and it comes from the stories of the Druids and the Bards. And this is a story that you may have well heard, and it's the shortened version of the original tale. And the Flynn Avanfac, it literally is about a lake, and there was a herdsman, and this herdsman he was struggling, and he came across a very beautiful lady, and this lady was the Lady of the Lake. And one of the things he noticed is that lady wasn't actually in the lake, she was upon the lake, floating upon the lake like a lily. And enticed by her beauty, he offered her bread from his own lunch, if you like, that day. And she received it and accepted it. And he fell in love with her grand beauty, and then got more bread that was baked by his mother, and went back the preceding day to woo this beautiful lady who was from the Fey folk, the fairy folk. And lo and behold, the authority, if you like, the superior supernatural lord of the lake was her father, and he agreed that they could marry, but there was a condition placed upon the marriage, and the condition was, if he was to lay 3 blows upon the lady, then everything will be annulled and all agreements would end. And he also bestowed upon the wedding and the celebrations was herds and cattle, and these were fairy herds. And these so there was oxen, there were sheep, there were horses, and there was richness, there was huge amount of wealth, and it was all bestowed upon this agreement of them coming together in marriage. And the story goes that unlike the blows that you would get in domestic violence today, the outcome of this story is somewhat different, because this is the part that's known as the 3 blows. And there was what is a blow? And in this case, there was a christening that was due to occur, and it was for one of their sons, their first son. And the Fae was very reluctant to go along to this christening. She did not want to belong. She was that of different laws and a different outlook, and he hastened her along and stretched out her hand, and that was the first blow. The second blow happened at a wedding, where she cried and moaned, and more, as if someone had died. And again, he reached out to her, and that was considered the second blow. The third blow was at a funeral. And the third blow, she was, of course, laughing. She laughed and laughed and laughed. Somewhat embarrassed, he again reached out to her, and that was the third blow. And just like so, the arrangement was over, and she walked back into the lake, and at the command of the lord of the lake, all the herd, all the oxen, everything was taken back into the lake. But the only thing that laid behind was now a single husband and 3 sons. But it's said that she came back and educated her sons with outside of his viewing in the ways of the herbs and that of the land and the magic of the land and the ways of healing and healing properties, and introduced her. And it's it became the physician of Mildelf. And this is straight from the story of Mabinogion, a very tripped out story, if you like. And this is one of those tales of Wales that kind of really takes us into a very different realm. But I am going to come and say hello to Bruce. Bruce, I'm going to bring you on to the well, I'm going to bring us all into the war right here. But Bruce, you're a magician, and
Yes.
you're a storyteller, and we've worked together a fair bit, right? And,
Yes.
But you're also a dentist.
Yeah, got to pay the bills. So
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, but what? Yeah, what's your thoughts on the tooth fairy? I mean,
Well, the Tooth Fairy is the main fairy in my life, in my world, and the lore that comes to the Tooth Fairy is vast. In different countries, here in America, it's basically that this fairy comes and takes the tooth, your baby tooth, your milk teeth, your baby, that if you put it under your pillow, she will come and take the tooth and leave a coin in its place, a gold coin. Um, that dollar value has been changed by parents over the years. I think the research was done, and the national average at the moment is $5, which is a good deal if you have any extra teeth lying around. Um, in various countries, let's see, in some parts of Europe, there is no tooth fairy. There was a tooth mouse, not a
all
fairy.
right.
That's questionable, and the mouse does the same thing. And but the predominant myth is of our friend the tooth fairy.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's um, I mean, my experiences as well growing up in Wales is that um, uh, I like the idea of believing in fairies, and when I um, was growing up, I had quite a number of experiences that led me to see fairies, and the likes of books like this, and the author, I will go back to Brian Froud. He is an illustrator of other books, and I haven't got it in mind. I used to have a copy of one of his books, and it was brilliant. A brilliant book that really was like a real in depth look into the world of fairies. So, and in short, you had these historical tales, these historical, or rather, these very factual backgrounds of
Mhm.
properties that belong. So, for example, the dwarf, and the dwarf is short and they're hard working, and they turn the soil, and they work the soil, and their work provides for shelter for various creatures, and like nesting, but all the characteristics of the dwarf can be found in an oak tree. And the so in that sense, the spirit of the oak tree is associated to the dwarf when you start getting into fairyology. The other one is more obvious, is the elves. Now, the elves are associated more to the evergreen trees, the tall trees, the pointy ears, and the yeah, and the likes of so. And then again, you can see the similarities. So when you're, of course, looking at something like Lord of the Rings, you'll see them. They're going through an evergreen forest. The tails are there. Of course, the similarities of their pointy ears and the sharp features that you would find, say, of pine trees are reflected in what is stereotypical of what an elm tree looks like. So when you have an artist like this painting, and that's the part of the inspiration is what they're seeing within the tree itself. And there's a deep sense um, of knowledge. So I once had a fascination for this. I was besotted by a girl. We were of the same age, about 14 years old, and she was a traveller girl from the Rainbow Tribe. And but she had this incredible ability to be able to name properties of various plants, trees, and that was one of the things that blew me away about her. And as she did that, as she was able to do that, I realized that she knew about fairyology. She knew about the fairies. She knew about, and that's where her knowledge came from. Now, there's a flip side to this as well, because not all fairies are depicted as friendly. Far from it. Some of them are really to be warned. Some of them are quite scary, and some of them like goblins, and they're some of the stories can be quite dark as well. And some of them, here's a classic one where you'll see water fairies, and they're often depicted as beautiful ladies in the lake, and they're enticing warriors, people who are walking by into the lake, and lo and behold, they drowned them. Through and but you can imagine the beauty of that in some ways is you tell your children these stories,
Yeah.
and ultimately it's like the ultimate kind of health and safety check. Keep away from the lake. If you go in there, these fairies will drown you. So it's really depicting this horrid image, right?
Well, Mario, 2 points. I think you also have to remember or realize that a lot of the mythology of fairies started with them being as part of the everyday world in magical beings. And as humans came in, okay, showing the disappearance of the beliefs in magic, the beliefs in the mystical, as more human, non would come in, it pushed these magical beings underground, and they became the fairies, and they became the thing. So it's people's fault for not seeing the magic anymore. And then when we, as magicians and storytellers and all, we come in, we believe in fairies because we believe that there is magic out there, and we're going to try and keep helping people to find it. So it's amazing. And like you say, a lot of the fairy stories are, like you say, health and safety. That's a great way of putting it. It's the lessons learned from crossing those fairies. But I think it's the idea of believing in fairies is just looking for the magic.
Absolutely, and it is a very fine point and a good point. And it's when I share the story of Tariya-san, and I used the 3 beads as I did yesterday, and we were talking about this just literally before the show began. But that magical effect that happens in the hand of my volunteer, and the tale behind that of magic, wonder, and say mystery, and this is happening in the palm of the hand. And that story, the original story, again comes from the ancient tales. It comes from things like the Mabinogion, are there to inspire. And there's an old Celtic word that the Druids use, and it's Alwen, and Alwen literally means to be inspired, inspire, or inspiration. So it's a real good point. Tom. Hey, Tom, you're in the room, right? Yeah. Your mic is off, Tom. There you go.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just, theology aside, what's your thoughts on, fairies and what have you?
Well, I'm a big sci-fi and fantasy fan, so I sort of have a interest in fairies from a sort of like from a fictional point of view. I enjoy reading books by Terry Pratchett, but the fairies in Terry Pratchett aren't very nice fairies. They're the fairies that steal children, the fairies that will steal everything and cause people to have fights and just cause havoc. And so that's where my interest comes into it. I like, from a folklore point of view, going back over traditions in sort of like the West Country, we got sort of people like John Barleycorn, who are sort of like the harvest gods that come out and people celebrate and sing songs to the master. They're so if you're indentured servants, you'd sing a song about John Barleycorn to your Lord of the Manor. So it's sort of like folklorish traditions are sort of my sort of interest, as well as the fantasy.
Yeah, and yeah. So, do you believe in fairies at the bottom of your garden, Tom?
Do I believe in fairies? I don't know.
I mean, there is fine words. So if we were to go into the realms of Christianity, and there's a whole different belief system there, that and you know, so I'm treading into interesting waters. I'm not going to stay here for long, but I'm just going to, you know, and that is the belief that it's often believed that fairies is misunderstood, and actually the fairies are fallen angels, and so there's this whole other belief that actually the fairies are actually, so now fairyology becomes demonology, and then you'll have practitioners of magic with a K who will be working and summoning fairies in their practice, and to do certain tasks for them, and there's this a very interesting world in that sense. And I did study theology for a fair bit, as you know, Tom, and there's a very interesting fine line where when I look at the benefits, talking to someone like my friend Barry, where and similar to what Bruce was just touching on as well, where you have they're there to remind us of the magic of life, and to reconnect us with nature, and to connect us with of the old ways, and 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 in the same breath you have this extreme belief, if you like, of this fallen world where these angelic beings and have fallen, if you like. You have thoughts on that?
If you were to believe that the fairies are demons, it sort of falls into the category where they're actually the villains of the story, and they are kidnapping people, are causing people to fall out and stirring up violence and stirring up problems. So then where would the not so nasty fairies be? Would they also be demons, or would they be other forms of magical creatures? So where it's opening up other avenues. Are all fairies demons? Are only some of them demons? Are others other magical creatures?
Well, like I say, it comes down to belief, isn't it? So it wouldn't be. It's only fair to visit that as well. My own look at it is that fairies are there to educate us. They're there to train us. They're ways of understanding nature and connecting to nature. I think so in a sense. Some of the fairies that we do see out there, they come with great warnings, and often when we look behind those tales, those stories, those mythical stories that are written down, there are hidden truths. So going back to stealing, there's the ones called the changelings, the fairies, the changelings. Veronica, you'll be able to bring some focus on this. and the changelings would literally kidnap a baby and take them down to the fairy realm and replace them with a fairy that looks like. And but again, there's this mythical story, these mythical stories that so it's a it you know that if you look at it from a point of theology, yeah, it would be from if you truly believe that was occurring, then that would make perfect sense. But if you saw it as a warning, you know, you know, don't leave your child in the woods. Keep away from the lakes. Understand nature itself. Understand the properties of a bluebell forest, and understand the properties of various trees. Don't eat this berry, but eat that one. And that's why you had various plants, berries, with to a certain degree, and so
Also, with the changeling, is by the time a child starts to show symptoms of autism around 3 or 4, is when a lot of changelings were changed in. It's also an explanation of why suddenly children are showing autistic signs.
that's very interesting. Yeah. So, in what context would you say that happens, Tom? I mean,
Well, a lot of the time, you don't know a child is autistic until they get to 3, 4, 5. So if a child
right.
suddenly develops autistic symptoms, are melting down, having meltdowns, terrible tempers, not developing the same way other children are developing, with speech patterns, with general things you expect a 4, 5, 6-year-old to be doing, it might have been considered, oh, my child has been stolen by a changeling or a fairy.
Oh, right. I see. Yes, yes. So misunderstood, and there's that mistreatment of a child as opposed to, because often these children are extremely gifted, and well, I'll correct myself. All these children are extremely gifted in some way or another, and in some cases. So when we look at dyslexia, and that is what is the secret gift of dyslexia. I'm going to bring Veronica into the room, and I know you're off camera, Veronica. Are you able to share with us? Can you say hello?
Yeah, I'm here if people can hear me okay. It's very, very interesting take on the changeling there, Tom. That could well be an explanation that people gave in times gone by. As you've been talking, I remember one of my walkabout characters was a wish fairy, which was going around and grant and asking people what their wishes was, and changing rainbow silk into a wish bubble that they could then take away with them, and the magic would stay with them. And I think that's the beauty of fairies, and it's what fairies bring to society, is that it's allowing grown-ups and children to still believe in magic and to believe in the unseen, if you like. Even though we can't see things physically, we can still believe in things and how they make us feel. So I love that part of fairyology and what fairies can bring to us. Yeah, so it's a
I
very
mean,
interesting subject.
sorry, Veronica, you've got a very rich background yeah, I mean, you're a storyteller, you're a performer, and you do create stories and tales, but you come from a very rich background of storytellers,
Mm.
and you've got that um, remind me of that story about your.
Well, I always believe, as the youngest child, I always believed there was fairies at the bottom of the garden and at the in the woods that were close by. And as a youngest child, I spent quite a lot of time alone with them. And we had a distant relative who lived over in Fife, and he was a big, strong man. and me and my sister would sit upon one on each knee. And one day he started talking about the fairies at the bottom of the garden, and that to me was mind blowing. That suddenly this adult, very big, strong adult, was talking about fairies, and I said, "Yeah, I see fairies, and I believe in fairies." And he brought out this beautiful book that was all about Scottish fairies and mythology, and he would tell us stories about the fairies, and then we would go looking for fairies at the bottom of the garden. But having that somebody else, a grown up, believing in fairies when I was a child was really, really powerful, and he told wonderful stories, and that I carried them with me, and it was a big part of me believing in fairies, and I've searched for that book ever since.
Oh wow! Can you remember the name of the book?
I haven't, but I do. I think it was a Reader's Digest book, as one of his sons has. We've spoken about it, and I believe it was one of the Reader's Digest books on mythology and fairies, and it was a wonderful story. Then he would tell his own stories about the fairies as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Veronica. And yeah, it's one of the things we are in. One of the reasons why we're focusing on fairies tonight, I thought would be good, is number one. Both Veronica and I come from a very rich Celtic background, and our roots often tie into ancient stories of Celtic mythology, the Mabinogions, the tales, the storytelling. But we also, and if I had wished to share a couple of videos with you, we also just been to a fairy festival. So a couple of weeks ago, literally 2 weeks ago now, we were at the Three Wishes Fairy Festival, and that's Karen Kay's Fairy Festival. And I was the magician and the performer at it, and we literally had, well, I would say way over 500 fairies, and that's people like you and I, all dressed up as fairies, but really into fairies, and are coming together to celebrate fairyology. And again, you've got this very modern day a twist on fairies. So, for example, I was talking to one person, and he was doing various different workshops, and he was into the old fairies, the way fairies were. And these old fairies apparently didn't have wings; they couldn't fly. They were more like regular people, like you and I, but they were perhaps really small. But they lived in the wood, and they were the fairy folk. And it was during the Victorian times that they actually began to grow wings. And of course, a lot of the fairies, the modern day fairies, that rock at the festivals, they're wearing rings. Hey, Jeff, Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain, 1973. That's a good thought. That might be your book, Veronica. Yeah, no, I'm guessing that's what you mean there, Jeff. And Bruce, you had something in the back of you've shown me something then on your was
Yeah, it
it a
was
map?
a book, Reader's Digest, classic fairy tales. Don't know
All right.
if that's the book. It's a
Does
Reader's
that look?
Digest publication.
Oh, you can't see at all.
Oh no, I can see Bruce. Very good. It was a big, thick book. Yeah,
So
I'd love to find the link. I'd love to look at that.
say
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. You. Sorry. Oh well, I gotta be careful here. Uh,
Can I be heard? Can you hear me, Bruce?
Yes, I hear you now.
Ah, perfect. I'm saying I'm not sure. I'd love to know though. Send me the link and I'll
Okay.
have a look. I'd love to find that book again.
I think we also got Bruce is putting his money where his mouth is. He's saying, "I'll bet that is Veronica's book, the
Yeah.
Folklore Myths Legends of Britain, 1973."
Yeah.
I like to think that Bruce is on it. Not Bruce, sorry, Jeff in this case. That's brilliant. Thank you for that. And your thoughts, Jeff? Let us know. Let us know if you've got your thoughts on fairies. Have you had an encounter with a fairy? And hey, folks, I do apologise for the bad management of those videos earlier, and it would have certainly spiced up my show if we had volume in them. But there you go. But I think we're covering a fair bit of stuff right here. I find it fascinating, and any other thoughts? Any other closing thoughts? Where you at? There's one from Jeff. I'm going to bring this up onto the screen. I had an encounter with something that I cannot explain when I was 14. I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw something that I can't explain. So this is that realm as well. We have beliefs in fairies, whereas a hop, skip, and a jump, and now we're looking at ghosts, and we're looking at strange beings, and we're looking at various encounters, and that's very fine line. So when I was talking to Barry, the video I shared earlier, the man who's 83 years old and he lives in a wood, completely off grid in his very small wooden cabin, and he had a medium come to visit him, and they went on a journey into the woods, and they came across what Bruce described as a magical gateway. And this was two stumps of wood with a piece of wood that was resting on both of them. So this was just a natural occurrence. In this case, it was considered to be a gateway. And as they both stepped over um, this finding they came across, they both felt they stepped into a different realm. And suddenly, that's where it all began to occur, where they believed they hit a vortex, and there was a tunnel believed to be traveling directly underneath them. That could be described as a ley line, and all sorts of stories opened up. And the video is actually live. You can watch that video yourself. It's on my YouTube channel, and I know it has full volume, so it's like 5 minutes long. So if after this video you fancy watching that interview that I did with this really interesting man who's teaching me a fair bit about bushcraft, have a view of that video after the show. And there's also a clip of me performing at the Fairy Festival, 35 seconds. You can see that on YouTube, and you see I've got a massive audience of it must be 200 strong watching my open air show, and 90% of the people are dressed up as fairies. It was brilliant. I think that's pretty much what we got all time for, and but I was going to be respectful for for our time here together. We got So Bruce, you got any closing thoughts, ideas?
Yes. A lot of times I'll finish my shows with the following quote. I say it all to you guys. Thank you, everyone. May you touch dragonflies and stars, dance with fairies, and talk to the moon.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Tom?
Sorry, not that I can think of, Mario.
That's good. That's
okay.
Yeah, well, and well, this is it. I'd say be inspired, chase after your dreams, chase after your goals, step into the fullness of your passions. One of the things that Barry said, and it was beautiful. And one of the things that Barry said, it was learn to say yes again. We all learn to say no, and we end up retaining ourselves in our comfort zone. Step out and step into the unknown and learn to say yes again and take life opportunities as they come. Well, lots of magic to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us tonight. And be blessed and look out for those fairies at the bottom of your garden and be inspired.